Good afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. Today is 11 July, marked as World Population Day. And as a mark of observation, today's lecture is on population policies and programs in India. It is an effort to understand and meet the objective of 2022 World Population Day, which is towards the 8 million population. So let us try to understand what are the population policies and programs in India, because it is a country in which we live and we should be aware of such a great issue, which is a population explosion. So India was the first country to recognize the population problem and adopt an official national program of family planning in 1952. Concern over the rise in population in India started well before independence in the 1930s. So it is something which is kind of an old problem, and there have been a consistent effort to make sense of this problem and found out solution to it. So concern over the rise of population was more among the social reformers, because the social reformers were more in an attempt to design the country as an egalitarian, just society where everyone could kind of survive as an egalitarian. So therefore, they raised this concern, and other people who included were intellectuals, Congress, and then there were efforts made by this government to ensure that there were programs to curb the population. The first official program to kind of curb population growth was stated in the first 5-year plan of 1951-56, where it was kind of officially declared as a problem that had to be solved, and therefore population policies were framed. What is a population policy? It is defined as action taken implicitly or explicitly by public authorities in order to prevent, delay, or address imbalances between demographic changes and socio-economic political goal. So if the demography, that is the population size, is increasing at a very high speed, it creates a government problem. Why? Because then it would be difficult for the government to bring about socio-economic balance, and therefore policies are framed. Policies tend to regulate perceived population problems by adjusting population size and structure. So there's a lot of forecasting, so next 20 years, next 30 years, what will be the population? How much of assets do we have? How much of resource can be distributed? So that is what the policy takes into account. The policies are implemented by nation states through legislations and welfare programs. There are a lot of legislations and welfare programs in India to curb and control the population. So let us look into the population policies specifically in India. So India is an example of mixed method population policy. What does mixed method means? That it is no one particular method fits into the solving the problem. It is a combination of different methods which has been used, and large number of changes have happened in these policy programs. Birth control and delaying marriage were propagated by reformers and government. So these are natural methods by which you can control population. That is, individual themselves starts kind of taking on this resolution that they are going to have only 2 children, or the age of marriage. So we don't get married at 18 or early 20s, but delay the marriage. So the fertility rate of women will then get reduced, and it will kind of impact birth rate. Mahatma Gandhi opposed the use of artificial methods of birth control, because artificial method was going to kind of interfere with human body, and suggested for natural methods. He argued that sexual abstinence was the only method to control population. The population policy implemented since independence went through a number of changes and can be classified into 6 phases. The number 1 was the clinical approach. This was from 1951 to 61. In 1950, government appointed Population Policy Committee and created a family planning cell in the Ministry of Health. Number of family planning clinics were opened throughout the country that perform plethora of activities, that is motivating people to have less children, education, educating people about small family, and clinical services to control population. This period, the emphasis was on spread of contraceptive services among the couples to limit family size. The second stage was extension approach. This is from 1962 to 69. In the extension approach, incentives were offered to people that accepts family planning methods. The target on the number of contraceptive acceptors were fixed for the family planning workers. The demographic goals were specified state by state, district by district for the program. The third phase was high intensity approach during 70s. In the 70s, birth rate was declining and high population growth was considered to be one of the key factors responsible for retarding the economic development of the country. And therefore, focus was on controlling this growth. The family control measures emphasized on compulsive contraceptive among couples in order to reduce the number of child. Incentives were given to people who accepted these programs of the government, and this could be a deterrent. So people would kind of accept cash and decide to go by the government legislations of having less children. The fourth was coercive approach, and this is the period of emergency, 1975 to 77. Coercive means it is kind of taken by the government to implement the programs. The rights of individuals were largely suppressed, with government assuming enormous authoritarian power. And this is when the National Population Policy was formulated in 1976. The National Population Policy 1976 inspired many state governments to make family planning compulsory for citizens, to stop bearing children after having 3 children. The coercive tactics were adopted to control fertility level. The general public agitated due to these excesses. The fifth stage was recovery phase. This is post-emergency period 1977 to 94. Change in the concept from family planning into family welfare. Now, planning means that you're just going to plan the gap between the children. Therefore, the question was in terms of thinking about the welfare of the family. And this approach tried to reduce the target for adoption of family planning measures such as sterilization. It emphasized on demographic change through education and motivation. So earlier it was more or less in terms of medical interference, in terms of sterilization, contraceptives. Now it was more in towards a social cultural realm where the importance of education was being highlighted. During the 1980, the family planning program was restored with continued emphasis on sterilization. Now what is very important is the population policies in India. So till 1920, rate of population growth was slow due to famines, war and colonial rule. Sanitation measures were taken by the government led to increase in population since 1921. Lot of programs and policies which were for the welfare of the population, economic development, kind of started leading to an increase in populations post 1921. 1960s and 70s, policy interventions needed to protect environment from high population growth. This is a period where people become aware of the harm that was being caused on the environment, because a lot of lands were being taken up for construction of industries, for building dam, forests were deforestations was happening. So people kind of started thinking that how far could this population explosion go. 1980s, policies directly increased high fertility under assumption that small family will improve economic and health conditions. So there was not kind of only thinking about education and increasing awareness. It was kind of targeted to achieve a population, certain size of the population. So 21st century, we see shift from traditional approach to emphasizing individual health. Now, reproductive health, maternal health has become very important, and it is kind of women are becoming made aware of the consequences of large number of children on their health. So, maternal health becomes a way in which the population can be controlled. Let us look into the National Population Policy, which was formulated for the first time in 1976. In 1983, the National Health Policy was then designed, because increase in population has a direct impact on your health. So this policy stressed that need for securing the small family norm through voluntary efforts, moving towards the goal of population stabilizers. So through television, through advertisements, the government kind of started sending across this message that the smaller the size of the family, the happier or the more welfare it is. And that is how they were kind of moving from the traditional method to more in terms of technology and media. The National Population Policy targets at reducing maternal mortality rate below 100 per 1 lakh life, because the more the population is going to be increasing, the higher risk to the health of the women. And as I have already said, that women health has to be kind of protected or preserved. So we need to ensure that maternal mortality, which is death of women at the time of delivery, has to be reduced. Providing information and counseling without discrimination. Now there is a kind of lot of beliefs across caste, creed, religion with reference to the idea of family, the idea of having children. Population policy disseminates information irrespective of the identity of the individual. The second target is to reduce infant mortality rate to below 30 per thousand and prevention control of all communicable disease. The next target of National Population Policy is creating awareness about small family, integrated social welfare with family planning, school education up to 14 years, free and compulsory education for all. So if this is possible only if the population is under control, and therefore the government can afford to provide educations to all. And it is kind of related to one another. The higher the educated the population, they will adopt the family planning norm and they will reduce the size of the family. So it is kind of leading to control of population through education. National Population Policy 2000 was an objective of policy to address the unmet needs of contraception, healthcare infrastructure, personal, and to provide integrated service delivery for basic reproductive and child health care. So we see by 20s the objective of the government family welfare program is more towards maternal health and reproductive health. The medium term objective is to lower down the total fertility rate to the replacement level, that is 2.1 by 2010. The long term objective is to achieve a stable population by 2045. Now, when we look into population policies in India, we need to look into both family planning and family welfare program. Family planning, because in the beginning, just at the time of independence, the focus was on family planning. So we need to have a understanding in both in order to have a comprehensive understanding of how the population dynamic has changed in India. Family planning is the decision-making process by couple, together or individually, on the number of children they should like to have in their lifetime and the age interval between children, which is very important. So initially the government kind of advocated having a 3 years gap between the children and reducing the number of children to 2. When the population was kind of not controlled, it referred back to 1. So there is a lot of kind of way in which the dynamic of the population influences family planning. Family planning is one of the leading strategies to improve family life and welfare control, unwanted population growth, and the development of the nation. Since 1970, it was named as Family Welfare Program that aims at achieving higher and improving the quality of life. So, what are the methods of family planning? Contraceptive, this was significant in the 1960s and 70s, where the argument was that medical interference through the use of contraceptive could reduce the population from 10% to 50% in 1990s. And what are the traditional method? Abstinence, sexual abstinence, withdrawal, douche. Modern methods are oral contraceptive, intrauterine devices, injectable and implants, male and female condoms, spermicides, emergency contraception, voluntary sterilization and abortion. So, if we look into the modern method, which is more relying on science and technology, here the body of women are at risk. So, whether it is about contraceptive or intrauterine devices or abortion, it causes harm to the women's body, and therefore gender sensitization and awareness should be integral to family planning programs. Now, what are the benefits of family planning? Number one, social and economic benefits. Obviously, if we have less number of children, the health of the women is more safe and secure. So, the more the reproduction is being done, the body is kind of getting affected. With better health and greater control over their lives, women can take advantage of education, employment and civic opportunity. The families with fewer children are often able to send children to schools. So, earlier traditional society, when a family had too many children, and the economic conditions was poor, then only boys were sent to school, girls were not sent to school. It led to high percentage of illiteracy among girls. So, to curb the problem, if we have less children, both children can be sent to education. Once the girl child is educated, she will be able to take employment. Once she is employed, she is taking care of a financial need, she will not be considered as a burden on the family. And that will lead to the idea that we would not give dowry for taking care of the girl. So, we have the government of India giving the slogan Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. So, this is something which is still not implemented. So, this is 1960s, 70s and we are here in 2022 and still thinking about educating a girl child. So, these are kind of gender welfare from the family planning. Health benefits to the mother. When we kind of plan children and we keep an age gap, the women's body is able to cope up with the demands of pregnancy and the hormonal change in her body. So, the maternal mortality rate will decline and women will have a more healthy life. So, together with lot of health services like problems, lot of health disease and problems which occur because of too many reproduction, not much space between two children, leads to kind of control other health related problems. So, when we look into family welfare program which comes in through since 1970s, this is a centrally sponsored program provided by the central to all the states of the country. The main strategy for the successful implementation of family welfare program are, number one, it is integrated with other health services. So, it is not to be kind of isolated because it is about the health of the mother, it is the health of the family, health of the children. So, it is an integral program. The emphasis is on the rural area because it is more or less in the rural areas where women kind of are deprived of education, and therefore it is a program to make women aware about the reproductive right. The two-child family norm to be practiced, and here the two-child norm would be a daughter and a son. So it takes care of even female feticides or the preference, son preference. Adopting terminal methods to create a gap between the birth of two children. And what are the ways in which the government has implemented family welfare program? One is door-to-door campaign, which encourages the accept small family norm, encouragement of breastfeeding, proper marriageable age, that is 21 for men and 18 years for women, minimum needs program launched to raise the standard of living of the people, monetary incentives given to poor people to adopt family planning measures. And therefore, we have a lot of other health programs which are connected to population family planning program, and one of them is National Rural Health Mission, which was launched on 12th April 2005. Now, this Rural Health Mission ensures integration of health concern with sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, safe drinking water, and this is kind of directly related to maternal health. And if women are healthy, and they will only be able to reproduce healthy babies, so they can be a small family. There are also urban family program. Almost every state and the center government has implemented a lot of RCH, that is reproductive child health services, and other maternal health program. Panchayat and Jila Parishads are rewarded and honored for exemplary performance. These are in kind of prize or award which will help them to adopt the family welfare program. Balika Samriddhi Yojana, which is by the Department of Women and Child Development, is an important family welfare program. It gives cash incentive to rupees 500 at the birth of the girl child, and maternity benefit scheme. You have a lot of maternity benefit scheme which is kind of legislated by the center and the state to ensure maternal health of women. CRES and childcare centers have been opened, and there are a lot of efforts, if we can go on to kind of name the number of schemes which is towards educating girls, reducing the number of birth, increasing age of marriage of women. These are some of the ways in which the family planning programs and welfare programs are functioning towards the goal of controlling and curbing the population. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.